Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Friday, 5th day of February. Here we go. Let's say you've got a hot soup that you're about to serve, and someone decides that the soup is like too hot. Um, and they're worried, shouldn't joke about it because maybe for the children they'll burn their tongue, or so somebody decides that that soup has to be cooled down before it's served. So they think that a good idea on Shabbos is here where we're discussing. It's Shabbos and they want to pour some cold water into the big pot of hot soup to cool it down before serving it and everything. Well, that's a problem on Shabbos because when you take that cup of cold water and pour it into the big pot of hot soup, that cup of cold water is going to become kind of cooked when it goes into that pot. And if that pot is a Kli Rishon, it was the one on the fire, then a Kli Rishon is very hot, is considered hot enough to cook, and that glass of cold water that you're pouring in is now getting cooked on Shabbos, and you're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. So be careful not to do that. If it's a Kli Sheni, that would mean that it's not the pot that was directly on the fire, or it's been poured off of that pot into another serving thing, and you want to pour the cold water into that, which we call a Kli Sheni, something that won't cause as much cooking to happen. Then it's going to be allowed to pour that cold water into the Kli Sheni, the second vessel. It's not the vessel that was on the fire. Then it's going to be okay. New interesting question though. Let's say you have the hot soup, the very hot soup, in a Kli Rishon, in that first vessel that was on the fire. When I put the ladle in, I'm going to have to do some thinking about the ladle. See, if there were cold drips of water on that ladle before it was put into that hot pot of soup, then those little drips of cold water on the ladle are now getting cooked when they go into the pot of soup, and you're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. So it would be best if you could dry the ladle before sticking it into the soup. If there's some warm moisture that remains on the ladle in between the ladlings, then that's going to be okay because that's not getting cooked. Those are warm driplets of moisture that are, I made up that word, that are on that ladle, and that's going to be okay, those warm little drops, because they're warm. The safest thing to make this problem not happen is to, after the first ladling, just leave the ladle in the pot, and then it's going to be totally fine, and nothing bad is going to happen because the ladle just gets really hot. But those of you who are smart know that a ladle that stays in the Kli Rishon, according to some rabbis, now gets the status of a Kli Rishon. So that's going to be a small problem, because if that ladle really gets the status of Kli Rishon, then it's going to be hot enough that when it pours and ladles off into the second bowl, the bowl is a Kli Sheni, and you're not allowed to put uncooked spices into that bowl of soup because it's a Kli Sheni. Or baked items are not allowed to go into that bowl. So now this is an argument. Some rabbis say that ladle is not going to get the status of a first vessel, so when it ladles off into that second vessel, it won't be a second vessel, that'll be like a third, and you could put your uncooked spices and your baked items in a third, in a Kli Shlishi. So you may want to speak to your rabbi about this if you do leave your ladle in the hot Kli Rishon, because then the ladle could, according to some rabbis, get the status of a Kli Rishon, and a first vessel of heat, and then it could cause the bowl of your soup to be considered the second Kli Sheni, which is pretty hot, and then you're not allowed to put uncooked spices in there or baked items. So if this issue applies to you, and you know that you are leaving the ladle in the pot, and if your rabbi says that you're going to have to treat that ladle as a first vessel, a Kli Rishon, that's considered very hot, then you will have some problems in your bowl of soup. You may want to, for this reason, not leave the ladle in your big pot, but then you're going to have to be sure that the ladle stays warm and doesn't get cold drops on it that are getting heated by the soup. So do talk to your rabbi just to make sure that you don't get into this mess in your kitchen on Shabbos. Thanks for logging on, and log on again after Shabbos for more. Bye-bye.